We're going to begin now a brand new Sichah printed in Chelek Chav Gimel. This is volume 23, Parshas Naso, the first Sichah. As mentioned many times, this is a part of the great project of Likkutei Sichos. That idea is that we are all learning two Sichos together, Shavas Achim Gam Yochad, and the program is that after 8 years, we're already, I think, the fourth year into it, one is able to conclude the entire Likkutei Sichos. Okay. Aleph. Benegei dem korban hanesiim mechanukas hamizbeach dorchen nasi from Shevet Ephraim. So, in regards to the korban that the Nesiim brought for the inauguration of the Mizbeach, and on every day another Nasi brought his korban. So on Shabbos, it was Shevet Ephraim that brought the korbanos. Zayin hakrov is given b'yem HaShabbos, as the Medrash learns out that the day that the Shevet Ephraim brought the korbanos, this was actually on Shabbos. So state the Medrash Rabbi, the Parsha Senu, Parsha Yud Gimel. So on the Medrash Rabbi, in our Parsha, in the Parsha Yud Gimel, he says, Shloisha Devarim she'aso hanesim shalei kahoygan v'kibim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He says, the Nesiim did three things improperly, and yet Hashem accepted them. What were the three things? The Kan, Korban Yochid, now, in every place, the halacha is that an individual korban cannot push away Shabbos. In other words, you can't bring a korban yochid on Shabbos. The kan, and here the halacha was that korban yochid deiches Shabbos. Here, an individual korban, in other words, the korban of the Nasi of Ephraim, it wasn't a korban tzibur, it wasn't for the whole congregation. It had the category of a korban yochid. So here the halacha is that the Nasi of Ephraim, his korban overrode Shabbos. Halamadnu. So from here the Medrash says we learn Kama korban Nesiim chaviv b'fnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How precious the korbanos of the Nesiim were from Hashem. That's what the Medrash says, and the Rebbe in this Sichah brings a few different Midrashim. So we have halt on the Bissel cup every Medrash. So let's discuss the first Medrash, which is a Medrash Rabbah, Parsha Yud Gimel. Three things that the Nesiim did that were not proper, yet Hashem accepted them. One of the things is that usually the halacha is ein korban yochid deiches Shabbos, but over here, Shevet Ephraim, they brought their korban on Shabbos and it was accepted. So from this teaches us how precious korbanos are by Hashem. Or I should say how precious the korban Nesiim is by Hashem. Now, then you have another medrash, aber weiter in Parsha Yud Daled, Dr. Medrash Ben Yinzeh. If you go further in Parsha Yud Daled, the Medrash says, Shaloi Teimar, you should not say Heich Chilas HaShabbos, V'haloi Ein Korban Yochid Deiches HaShabbos V'zeh Hikru B'Shabbos. So the Medrash says, if you're going to ask, how were they permitted to bring or to desecrate Shabbos, l'chayra, we know the din is that a individual korban cannot override Shabbos. And the Nasi of Ephraim offered the korban on Shabbos. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Lo al piv asa shani amarti l'Moshe. So Hashem says they did not do this on their own accord, for I told Moshe. Okay, so you have two midrashim that speak about, that address this question. How could they bring the korban? Or if you're going to ask, l'chayra, a korban yochid is not deiches HaShabbos, here it was deiches HaShabbos. So the Rebbe's medayik in these two midrashim, in Pashas Kumtes. Now, on a simple level, it comes out, as like an ersten medrash is the hakrava b'Shabbos mitchila given bilti ratzi shalei kahogen. If you take the medrash on a simple level, the first medrash, the korban on Shabbos, was originally improper, right? Like the medrash says, the Nesiim did three things shalei kahogen. They did three things not proper, but it was only after the fact that because how precious the korban of Nesiim were for Hashem, Hashem Kivyochel accepted them. But it was like a b'di'evid thing. That's what comes out according to the first medrash. Mashenkin looked in Tzveiten medrash. What comes out according to the second medrash is the hakravas hakorban b'Shabbos melechatchila given ratzi kahogen val ani amarti l'Moshe chuli. Mashenkin, what comes out according to the second medrash, the offering the korbanos on Shabbos was desirable from the outset. It was proper, like Hashem says, I told Moshe. That's what l'cha'ira comes out, the difference, or if if you have to say like the difference between the first medrash and the second medrash. So the Rebbe says, "Aber kadayekes ken min euch leuten ersten medrash nit lernen." The Rebbe says, however, if you closer examine it, even according to the first medrash, you cannot say that the hakrava was aser. V'chas v'shalom zu sagen, as a nasi wird sich führen hepech hadin. Chas v'shalom to say that a nasi the chatchila will act mamish hepech the din of the halacha of bringing karbanos on Shabbos. Even more so. Moshe's given thereby. Moshe was there. The Kohanim were doing their avodah. The Leviim were singing. When ze alle hepech hadin. Atama. It's a wonder to say that everybody, all the Kohanim and all the Leviim, they all go against halacha. So once I remember, I was once when I was a bacher. There was we were like in Greenwald, so we went like a established yeshiva, and they started like, all these tainas, the basic tainas of Lubavitch. Why Lubavitch does this? Why Lubavitch does that? So I remember one of the bachrim says, so the whole Lubavitch are a bunch of amaratzim, right? Taking thousands and thousands, and everybody is just nobody knows halacha, nobody knows what they're doing. So over here, it's like you have Levim, you have Kohanim, you have everybody doing what. Working in the Mishkan, and everybody's going chatchila against halacha. So the Rebbe says, as oich leidem medrash is the hakrava b'Shabbos min chatchila gemen al pitzivus. So you have to say that even according to the first medrash, the karbonis and Shabbos from the outset were with the with Hashem's command. Nor baldos is given a hira shah was hachutz dem ein und einzige mol. So, since it was only temporary instruction, because this was a unique instance, as we know, such an act was forbidden, so it was deemed, whatever that means, I guess, shaloi kohagen is improper. Okay, turn over the page. So the Rebbe asks a question like this: Start from Varstein, we have to understand, we have to clarify. Was seien die Svaris for the zwei midrashim? Was leut dem erste medrash is the hakrova shaloi kohagen. On late zweite medrash, it says nit chilul Shabbos, it says kohagen. So now we have to understand that even if you want to say that chas v'shalom, that the Nesiim, the Chatchila, didn't act according to halacha, but what's the reasoning for the two midrashim? In other words, according to the first medrash, you're saying that the karbonis was improper, whereas according to the second, the karbonis did not desecrate Shabbos, and not only that, the Rebbe says, it says nit. Nochmer says, Kiyum Tziva Hashem Shani Amarti. Not only did it not desecrate Shabbos, but furthermore, the karbonis was fulfilled of Hashem's command. Why? Like Hashem said, for I told who? I told Mesha. Right. So the Rebbe says to say the Chatchilim b'di'evad, you can't say that because that knocks it off. But at the end of the day, according to the first medrash, one is Shaloi Kohagen, and the second one is Kohagen. So we have to understand why is that. Okay, now the Rebbe says in Gemara, this is Gemara Moed Kotten. So the Gemara says that Gebrach as der Tam was Bisman Chanukas Beis HaMikdash Harishin le'osu Yisrael Asyim HaKippurim. Now the Gemara says that the Jewish people did not observe Yom Kippur during the inauguration of the first Beis HaMikdash, and this was based on a Kavachim. That's what the Gemara says. The first Chanukas Beis HaMikdash Harishin. When they inaugurated the Beis HaMikdash the first year, they did not observe Yom Kippur. Why? Al-Amru Kavachemer, the Yidden said a Kavachemer. Now, Umam Mishkan, if by the Mishkan, She'en Kedushas Kedushas Eilam, which the sanctity of the Mishkan was not permanent, was only temporary, and the Korban Yochid Deicha Shabbos, the Isser Skila, and nevertheless in the Mishkan, as we know by Shevet Ephraim, the Korban Yochid was Deichas Shabbos, which is the Isser Skila. So Mikdash Kedushas Eilam. So how much more so by the Beis HaMikdash, which is a everlasting holiness, the Korban Tzibur Yom Kippurim, and not only that, it's a Korban Tzibur and it's a Korban Tzibur, and we know Yom Kippur is the Onish Chorus, which is only Chorus, which is less than Skila. So then, like Kol Shekin, for sure, it should Deicha for sure. So for sure. Yeah, but why? But why? So not observe Yom Kippur, or they just didn't bring the. They didn't. Why wouldn't they observe Yom Kippur? Like, what's the connection? Yeah, but it's not like the Yidden didn't. I know, but when you say Deichas Shabbos, it's not like the Yidden didn't keep Shabbos. It's just that they brought the korban on Shabbos. It's not like the rest of the Shabbos they're mezalzel. So like. Only what? Yeah, but what? But I'm asking just a question shot on the Gemara. By the Chanukah some Mizbeach, so we say that the korban is Deichas Shabbos, but does that mean, like I'll give you an example. We just had now in Rambam. Exactly. Yeah, but so I'll tell you. There's we just had now in Rambam Shleish Brokim, so Parak Beis. There's a diuk that Rambam says that Shabbos, right? That when there's Sakonas Nefashos, or it says either Deicha Shabbos or Hutra Shabbos. What's the difference? So Deicha Shabbos means it pushes off Shabbos, but like Moshe, let's say in Hatzalah, right? Just because you can go save somebody doesn't mean now I can go and put on a television or smoke. It doesn't work that way. It's just for that thing, and I mean some people take it a little too far, but whatever. We're not getting into it. But the idea is that you're Deicha that thing and nothing else. Hutra, this is the difference between, I think that's a Tzedek, is Medaik, and then one of his truths. Hutra means that once it's Deicha, it's pushed off. No, stop. Okay, so let's read weiter. No, I'm just.
Kippur incident was because of the Sichah, they didn't fast. Doesn't mean that they didn't bring Korban of Yom Kippur also.
So they did, right?
Stomach, they Korban, yeah. They didn't fast because of the Sichah. So it's the one thing, the same thing as the Korban. The Korban is one thing and they continue keeping the Shabbos.
So I'm asking you, so in Yom Kippur, the Gemara is mashma that they still kept Yom Kippur.
Of course.
Okay, because here the Lashon is like, also Yisrael Yom Kippurim means that they didn't.
I think that they didn't fast at that Yom Kippur.
Because of the Simcha. Okay, I have to check if the Gemara, I don't remember. All right, could be. All right, from them, so the Rebbe said this. From them is moving. So from this is understood. Okay, so again, the Gemara says that the reason why in the times of the Beis Hamikdash they did not observe Yom Kippur is they said a Kal V'Chomer, because in the Mishkan, which the Mishkan did not have a Kedusha L'Olam, and it was a Korban Yochid, and nevertheless it overrid Shabbos, so the Mikdash, which has a Kedushas Olam, and the Korban Tzibur, and Yom Kippur, and Banish Kar, so for sure. All right. Right, so I have to look up. I'll look at it. I'm going to look up the Gemara right after this year. Okay, for them is moving. So according to this is understood. As Ladas HaGemara is the Hakrava b'Shabbos b'Chanukas HaMizbech nit given ken hidosh shor shalei kohagen. Now, according to this Gemara, it comes out that the Karbonis that on Shabbos at the Mishkan's inauguration was not a temporary exception. Nit wie the Medrash Aleph and Val Demold. Von them nitki can't open with the Kal V'Chomer if the Karbonische b'Chanukas Beis Hamikdash. Now, if this, what the Rebbe is trying to say is that according to the Gemara, the Karbonis on Shabbos at the Mishkan's inauguration was not just a temporary exception; it was improper, unlike the first Medrash. For if this were the case, then it would be impossible to learn from a Kal V'Chomer to the Karbonis offering at the dedication of the Beis Hamikdash, because you're going to say, okay, it was only Heirah Shah. So the fact is, this Gemara is not learning like the first Medrash. Okay, so the Rebbe says that the Svaras Hapluxis zwischen the Medrash Aleph and the Gemara and Medrash HaBeis, see the Heter HaKrava b'Shabbos is given Heirah Shah or nit. So can mevar zayin become meifanim. So the Rebbe says that the reasoning for the machlekes between the first Medrash and the Gemara and the second Medrash, whether the allowance to offer the Karbonos on Shabbos was only temporary exception or not. So he says you can explain it in a few ways. And now the Rebbe is going to say like this. Aleph. The first way to explain it, the Gemara v'chuliret loitin amanda amar was halt as shevet ikroi kal. The Gemara follows the opinion that when a tribe is defined as a congregation. When a yesh as their korban, was the Naso at makro given is given a korban hashevet. Now, since the korban that the Nasi brought was a korban that wasn't his own personal korban, it was a korban hashevet. It was a tribal sacrifice. It's nitkin hirah shah. So this it's not a temporary acceptance. Val zadov is a korban kol. It's classified as a congregational korban. Right, so that's what he's saying. So he's clarifying. He's saying, so let's see. So he's saying that the Gemara, well, oh, so in the beginning we think that, yeah, Kol Zman is not for the whole Bnei Yisrael, it has the category of a Shevet. So he says that you could explain the Gemara, in the Gemara Hari says a Machlekes, if when a Shevet brings just for his Shevet, is it a korban for the entire congregation? Does it have the category of a kahal or not? So one of the opinions is that it does have a korban for the kahal. So he says, yeah, well, it's a korban call. Is min makrevi ala korban sibur was an deiche Shabbos. So therefore, you could bring it on Shabbos. It was offered as since it's communal, it's deiche Shabbos. Well, das was the Gemara ruftas on korban yachid. Like you said, why is the Gemara calling it korban yachid? It is in vergleich zum korban tamid ki it's b'shalafon or shalachirav. Because an korban is called kahal Yisrael. Is because when in contrast or when it's compared to the korban tamid, that offering was brought before and afterwards, so then which that was for the entire Jewish nation, so that is considered a korban yachid, but binyan it's really a korban kahal. However, according to the medrash, the first medrash, he's the opinion that a korban of a tribe is not defined as a congregation. Which comes out that according to the first medrash, he regards the Nasi's offering as a regular personal sacrifice, which does not override Shabbos. When the heter akrav is given, it's at Hayirah Shabbos. So why is it that the Yidden were able, or why was it that Shevet Ephraim was able to bring the korban? Because that was a temporary exception. That's one way to explain the difference. The Gemara learns that the Shevet bringing the korban is a korban kahal, which is deicha Shabbos, and therefore it's not a hirosha. It's something that had the category of kehila, the deicha Shabbos. The Medrash learns that even though it was a korban nasi, but it still had the category of a korban yachid, and that's why it's not deicha Shabbos. We see that Lapoil they were deicha Shabbos. That's because it's a hirosha. It's only temporary. Okay, base. And he says another way is the kulam shevet ikri kahal. The second way is that everyone agrees that a kahal, a tribe that brings a korban, is defined as a congregation. Over their korban and nasim hat yeder nasi gebracht von sein eigentum. However, the nasi's korban was brought from each nasi's personal funds. That was the din. The din is that when they brought the nasim by the Chanukas HaMizbeach, each head of the nasi had to bring from his own personal funds. Nit von dem was der Shevet Bechlole had gegeben, and not from the funds that the tribe as a whole contributed. Steht beferish medrash, and Rashi brings this bepirush al Torah as mishaloi hevi veloi shegave mishiftei, as the medrashes and Rashi brings down on his commentary in Torah that he brought it from his own resources and not that he collected funds from his tribe. Okay, so based on that, you could say on the machlekes zwischen them. So what's the machlekes between the medrash and the Gemara? The machlekes zwischen the medrash ha'alef mit the Gemara v'chuli is, and the machlekes between the medrash and the Gemara is das ha-medrash v'bal the nasi hot fardem korban nit goy v'givem mishiftei. So according to the medrash, since the nasi did not collect money from his own shevet, like this together from a korban yachid versus nidei Shabbos. So it comes out that if he's paying it from his own funds, not even from his from the bank account of the shevet, so it comes out that it's a korban yachid, and if it's korban yachid, it's not deicha Shabbos. And the far after the zogin, as the heter akrav is given a rosha. So in the times in the Mishkan, they were able to bring the korban. That was a temporary hiro. Masha'enkein, the Gemara is chosh mishaloi hevi, is that hevi aber given als the mata Yehuda. Now, the Gemara says he brought it from his own resources. So even though he brought it from his own resources, his offering was, like it says, like for the tribe of Yehuda, the pasuk says, like Rashi says, it states his ancestors in terms of his tribes. A korban for them ganzen shevet is a korban sibur versus deicha Shabbos. So then it comes out that even though he didn't collect it from his own he didn't collect it from funds, it was from his own resources. Nevertheless, his korban was a communal korban which overrides Shabbos. So that you can answer because the Gabi, the Korban Tomid, it's a Yochid.
It was the Sichos. The Sichos them
He's giving two different reasons.
The Schus to shave it, yeah.
He's explaining two different things of this. One is saying that they practice. One says that it's Sibur, and this one's saying the same thing. He's saying there's also Sibur because it's Schus.
Okay, let's stop here. Again, the Rebbe says there's two ways to learn the Medrash and the Gemara. Either is that one is learning that when a shaver brings for the kahal, it's still